Hi, good morning, and welcome to the ZP Vlog and Podcast. So, every Sunday at 8 a.m. London time, we like to do this vlog and podcast really to talk about the news from Zimmer Peacock for this week. So, the first thing we'll jump into this week is platinum electrodes. We've actually released a sort of new variant on the platinum electrodes, which is what we call the hyper value platinum electrodes. So at ZP, we have a range of carbon electrodes. I mean, it's a sort of personal opinion, obviously, but I think these platinum electrodes are really kind of excellent. Or sorry, I should say the carbon electrodes were really excellent and a really good low price. And the thing that sort of helps with the excellence and the quality of those carbon electrodes is the fact that ZP is one of the biggest users of those electrodes. And so in a similar vein now, we released the platinum electrodes. Also trying to be competitive on price. Intrinsically platinum is more expensive than gold. Rather than carbon. So there's no sort of avoiding that. But the philosophy is still there. Let's make a sort of low cost, high quality electrode. Let's make something that ZP wants to use and that ZP does use. And then let's make it available on the web store so that other people can use it. And that's really the fact that ZP does use these electrodes that ensures the quality. It's a real shame that there's a lot of electrodes that go onto the market, and let's say the original manufacturer is not actually using those electrodes, and it really affects the quality of those electrodes. Something else that we do every week is I just want to say hi to Ali. Thank you for joining us this morning, Ali. Something that we do every week as well is we do our ZP Developers Zone webinar. So in that, questions will come in either via the YouTube channel or via our kind of contact page on our website, or even maybe LinkedIn, etc. Questions come in and people ask questions like, can I measure hormones, oxygen, lactates? Do you have multi-channel potentiostats? Discussion on cortisol, cortisone, and melatonin. Things like, can I follow a reaction of or chemical reaction called detritylation. Detritylation are steps when people are making strands of DNA or oligomers. Um, Questions on gold electrodes, and then questions on platinum electrodes. So these questions come in. Sometimes they're of a commercial sort of type, but actually often they're technical. And so we sort of do that webinar um, every Sunday, as I say, at 8 a.m. Every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time. Um, Now, a couple of weeks ago, we also did a whole hour. It was over an hour webinar on the ZP Developer Zone, and we talked, many subjects. But one of the things that we covered was actually electrochemical functional testing during manufacturing. Um, and so during sort of manufacturing, there's many sort of tests that people do on things like screen printed electrodes. They do some people do profillimetry. Everyone does visual inspection. A lot of people do what we call continuity testing to make sure that conductive tracks are working correctly. But at ZP, we do something a little bit more than this. We do electrochemical functional testing. And so we did a sort of whole webinar in part of, so a rather large chunk of the webinar was actually about this functional testing. And so we just made a sort of bit of a dedicated page around this week to try and help people find that information, because it can be quite buried, every week in those ZP Developer Zone webinars. So if you're interested in ultimately becoming a manufacturer of a biosensor, and I hope that you are, then that new page that we've put up there with some information regarding what we do at ZP, the hardware we use at ZP, and also the way we automate data analysis at ZP as well. Because in manufacturing, we will test 50, 100 electrodes, for example, but you manually analyzing 50, 100 electrodes, even if you have code, um, even if you sort of semi-automated it, the problem with code is generally only the coder can use the code. So we do have these solutions so that eventually we imagine everyone's actually running their own system, their own factory, and how are they going to analyze all this data? And so we have Julie for the analysis of data and the automation of that data. We have our new 6-channel potentiometer Emma, which allows us to gather sort of data, at least in parallel. So that was some information we put out there this week. Sort of something else that we're doing quite a lot of these days is actually workshops. They've been really well attended. We've had some amazing workshops in Norway of recent. These have been sort of 2-day workshops. So we did one a couple of weeks ago. And we're actually going to do some more workshops now in March. And we're also doing some more workshops in Norway in April. So March and April are sort of already in the calendar, already booked, so that people can attend those. And we've also got a couple of sister workshops as well running in Coventry. So at ZP, we're fairly international. That we have at least have good locations in the UK and in Norway. Most of the time in those in those locations, we're doing contract development, contract manufacturing of electrochemical sensors and electrochemical biosensors, and we're also opening those facilities up for doing workshops as well. So it's fair to say the news this week has been that we've released a new range of products. That's the platinum electrodes, the platinum hyper electrodes. Don't forget, every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time, we do our webinar where we answer questions. And we are going to do one this Thursday. The questions are already coming in, so we're already preparing for that. And then sometimes in those webinars, there's really good chunks of, let's say, information that you sort of get lost in the webinar. Unless you're sort of watching that webinar at the time, you might have lost it. So one of those examples would be electrochemical testing for manufacturing. So we have called that out and sort of given its own dedicated page. So we hope that people will find it. And then, as I say, I mean, at ZP, if you ever came to our facility day in, day out, there's contract development, contract manufacturing. And then in Norway and in the UK, then we are holding these workshops and people can come along and attend those workshops. I also want to say, if people want to do online workshops, please reach out to us, because we want to we appreciate that not everyone can make it necessarily to the UK or Norway. And the last thing I just want to finish on this week as well is that at ZP, we do have a really excellent product called FoodSense. FoodSense, the biggest selling application of FoodSense is the measurement of the hotness of chilies. And we are setting up some workshops for FoodSense users as well. So today there'll be a page going live which will talk about these new types of workshops, but those are very application, let's say, specific. So I just want to say thank you very much. If you're listening along to this vlog and podcast, as I say, we do this every Sunday, 8 a.m. London time, and it's really just a wrap up for the news for this week. So I appreciate Ali for coming online this morning, and if you have any questions for ZP, I was answering a few questions this morning on YouTube, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks very much.